I'm Rod Duff, your host.
And I'm producer Barbie.
And together,
we bring you our podcast,
Insights and Straight Talk. And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. Woo! That was cool. The unique thing about this right now is producer Barbie and I were going through, pre-show discussions, which today didn't last very long because for the last 2 or 3 days, she has been butchered by a bug. And then all of a sudden, this guest that's coming up next that I think is going to provide a very electric and fun show. Thomas Wilson comes on. He goes, "I'm sorry, but I got a flu." And now I'm worried because everybody surrounding me has got the flu. So we'll struggle with you, Thomas. I promise we will. And we may poke a little bit of fun at you. It's one of my bad habits. It's not something I'm proud of. But Thomas is a fascinating character. When he first started describing his mission, I was like, okay, this is different. This is interesting. I mean, it's a different another approach to what works in curating the great middle class of America. Oh no, it's not going to be another one of those days, is it? Anyway, without further ado, I am honored to bring on my new favorite friend, Mr. Thomas Wilson. All right, I did this all by myself, and I've been doing it. Hey, Thomas, I'm making an excuse for myself right now. Can everybody hear me? Okay, cool. So I need to constantly make an excuse for me because I've got all this technology around me, which is set up, and a producer friend of mine out in California, the audience knows Joe. He, helped me set it up, and that was like from zero to today, like September, like June. So almost a year from today. Not quite, but I'm trying to be fancy, being one person, and of course there's a team that support, but I'm the one running the board and doing the talking. So sometimes I hit the fade out instead of bring the guest on stage, and that's what I did today, which is not a surprise. So Thomas, how are you today?
I am doing well. Other than that cold you just mentioned, I'm doing well.
Yeah, we were talking in the green room earlier, and we were going through the struggle he's having, and it's like, oh my God, I gotta go. I gotta be alive and talk to some live people. This is this is really fast. Usually there's a few minutes, before people start jumping aboard. Literally out of the gate, we're at 106. So this, enjoy and let's have fun with today's subject. So Thomas, how did it all start? Give us some background. Let's roll into the different things you do, because it's not just making the subject of mental illness more on a lower threat level through storytelling and so forth, as well as the other things we're talking about. So Thomas, again, I know I said this once already, but could you get us started here?
Absolutely. So like mentioned, I do storytelling. I work as an advocate. I work as a writer. I publish my own journals. I partnered with other organizations on that. And my work, I could go on and on. Honestly, if I mention all the hats I wear.
Hold on, before you go on, and we like to dig deep. We don't scratch the top. So wherever you think is the best value. But when you say you publish your own journal, right? I'm sorry.
So how does
Yeah. So what is the feel? What is the vibe of those? I know they're different, everyone, but the general over broad brush, what are you seeing as a reoccurring theme moving forward? What's your thoughts on that?
So if I understand correctly, I mean, with my theme, it's largely on creating spaces for youth and adults that are sensory friendly. I've partnered with a few different organizations for that, and I think especially in today's day and age, there is a lot of, I think, hostility towards the idea of sensory friendly work. Partly because I believe there's a lot of misinformation on it, and I'm not a political person. I do not get political, but I think
Everywhere there's a lot of misinformation.
absolutely,
You're not saying you're not going out of the edge with that comment. That's for sure. There's misinformation in a day back and forth between everybody else. It's insane. Sorry, go ahead, Anthony.
well,
I mean,
and I
Tommy.
think
Sorry.
yeah, and I think to add to that, in general, the mental health community, and there's like
Yes.
actual proof to this, has largely been misrepresented in media. I know a lot of people may say, "What's your point of this?" I encourage you to go back and watch the news from like 20 years ago, or even like in the 60s or 70s. The attitude towards mental health care was very derogatory in the news, even the 80s, honestly, 90s. And so I think part
Yeah.
of it is there's just so much misinformation. And I think when I say that, what I mean is there's a lot of assumptions that can be had about it. One of them being, this is an incredibly cost heavy thing that people have to do, or making sure that people who need sensory needs can be cared for is time consuming and not worth it. And I was actually talking in our green room about the reality that, especially in my writing, I try to preface that, and that these are things we can do very easily, from lighting to making sure that youth or adults have a sensory space. I don't know about anyone listening, but I actually hate going to restaurants nowadays, especially at like key dinner times, because so often it's incredibly loud and it's all over, like you did that exact thing.
Yeah.
And I've actually seen like information that restaurants will do that to get people to leave quicker. I don't know 100% if that's true. I can believe it
That's
because
an interesting thought.
yeah, and so I've seen that, and my work is very different. I don't think you have to have autism or have to have neurodiversity in order to crave a sensory friendly experience, and especially in an era of where everything is so digital, or everything is just so loud and there's so much anger. People really crave that. So I do a lot of articles on how to support people in that space, how to set them up in that, but also really hone in on the idea that, like, accessibility, in my opinion, doesn't need to be a big tumultuous conversation. In the reality, accessibility
Towards being sensory conscious. That is that what you're referring to? The conversation.
yes. So sensory conscious, or really just the idea of making accommodations. A lot of people, I think, especially nowadays, we hear that and we go, oh, people shouldn't have to have this. But I think most of us, if not all of us, would agree ramps for people within wheelchairs so they can get into a building is wise. Making sure we have ways to open doors for people who can't open doors. We all pretty much believe that these are valuable things. And that in its core is accessibility, making sure that people can
Let
live
me
their
ask you
life.
something. Just to dive in just a little bit deeper on this, because it's always uh, a topic within Middle America as far as the the importance of uh, uh, coming together and then supporting and doing the things that are necessary to not only create but continue a productive society. The Can you give us and maybe you don't know, I'm just asking because I like to dig deep, but can you give us some overview or look or stats of how many people and why they're like, like in here, there's a lot of sensory going on. What is the kickoff? What is the stats and what is the issue and how big is the issue that we need to wrap our head around?
And so just so I check about like sensory needs and how important they are in culture.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. The people, the amount of first of all, yeah, I get that. The amount that it's important to people, but how many people are afflicted? And in that we're now starting to get into making provisions like doing ramps and doing easier access doors with the push buttons. So I get it. Yeah, 100%. But and in that, how many, what percentage of people do you know like have that need where it's excessive?
So I don't have that number off the top of my head. I can say that like autism and neurodiversity numbers are on the rise substantially. I think I saw something just yesterday.
That's an understatement, dude. That's an understatement. Yeah, it's freaking weird.
I think a big part of it is, honestly, just to add to that, is the attitude towards diagnosing. And I think that's a very important thing to touch on. Like 50, 60 years ago, attitude towards diagnosing autism or like neurodiversity was radically different than it is today.
Non-existent, really.
Oh yeah. And even just in the 90s, early 2000s, I always say I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. And the attitude towards mental health care was horrible in general. Like there was a lot of ableism, a lot of attack on therapy, things like that. But I think it's really important to note, even though I don't have the numbers specifically on me, anytime something is going to become normalized in diagnosing, there's going to be an increase in those numbers. And on top of that,
you mean there's going to be an increase in the numbers that are addressing that particular thing? That's what you're saying, is that whatever the numbers are, they're okay, I get it. That makes sense. We're aware, so we start looking and seeing and observing, right?
And I think probably some of it is going to be misdiagnosed. Those numbers might be wrong. But it's so important to note that the diagnosis journey just in the United States is an incredibly complex and difficult process. It's
just describe it a little bit. Describe what you're referring to there.
So speaking of myself, I myself, in my own mental health and neurodiverse journey, I've had several doctors tell me, yes, I do have autism. I've had several tell me no. I have been diagnosed with ADHD for the longest time. We thought I had ADHD. And then we found
What's AB? Wait. What?
ADHD.
I know what ADHD is. I know what ADHD is. Did you say ABHD? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. What is that?
I might have misspoke if I said that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So ADHD, you've been done. Then you're
sorry.
Go ahead. No.
I think there might be a little bit of a lag. So, so I was told I had ADHD. Then I was told I had bipolar disorder, which I still have. And then it wasn't until my adult years, real recently, a couple of years ago, where my doctor started having the conversation with ADHD on again. And then on top of that, I had been told, I've had doctors tell me, no, you're too high functioning to have autism. And not true. Many high functioning people have autism. And
let me just add in real here. I told you I was going to poke at you a little bit. About a week ago, we had a gentleman on the here talking with us, chat, and he runs a podcast. It's called Autism Rock and Roll, and he's definitely on the spectrum. It's not on the and intelligent and appreciative and awesome of a guy that is fighting a battle that you're describing, and it's impressive. that fight.
Yeah, and I think part of it is so often. I'm not going to say what I was thinking because that's just derogatory and mean. But so much of the diagnostic journey is it's a complex task where you have a lot of different opinions, a lot of different insights, and our testing. Oh, I think I.
Shoot,
Oh,
you know what? I'm sorry. I always before before we come out of the green room, I always mention to people, hey, I'm going to do that to you every once in a while because it's a better look than this while you're making a great point, as I'm reading the thing. So I heard the oops and I went, oh darn, shoot, I didn't, my fault, I apologize. So I'm going to duck back out, finish off.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, let me see if I can backtrack. So part of it is our testing systems are not perfect by any means whatsoever. We as a society have to get better at these things. And I know there are people who are going to argue that, curing autism is a good thing or, getting to the heart of things. And I think that's partly due to the old mindset and a lot of psychology and in a lot of care and healthcare is automatically cure the thing. But one of the things I really love about the community as they go through the diagnostic journey is the idea of that sense of pride and that sense of acknowledgement. We are in an era of like autism pride and autism
Oh, wow. That's
communication.
amazing. That is you dead on. I mean, what used to be shameful is just normal. It's just different bodies, different people, different minds have different challenges.
Mhm.
And as you go on, I just kind of read down here what sparked the idea of glimmer of soul. So let's kind of pick off some of these because, like I said, I don't know, we're not that bad. We're about 10 behind.
Yeah, and
Questions.
I'll try to be a little bit more concise as well. So what
Yeah.
sparked the idea of Glimmer of a Soul? So I, even when I was younger, I loved writing. And I myself, I published several books, but Glimmer of a Soul was the first one. And I really wanted to write
That's
something
awesome.
that expressed my own struggles with mental health care, and also just my own struggles with mental health. I'm a big youth advocate. I do a lot of programs, a lot of different work with youth, partly because I went through the school system and was kind of held back in the sense that a lot of teachers deem me too
Yeah.
hard to work with. A lot of programs
Right.
deem me too hard to work with. I was by no means a saint, but I was still trying my best. And so I started to put together this book and really emphasize the idea that those of us in the community are sometimes the best advocates. So I wrote a series of poems inspired by some
Oh,
very honest emotional journey, and that actually got published like right after I graduated high school.
oh man,
And
I'm jealous. I started my own memoir
Mhm.
and my journey uh, through mental health, which is never really over. But I had points in life where I couldn't go out of the apartment, like within a year ago. So that journey is really, and there's all sorts of reasons why, but it's also the reason that this podcast is here because I sent out the book. You did it after high school. I'm still trying. That's not fair, man. What a whiner, huh?
I found a good publisher, and I'll be honest, I have so much respect for self-publishing. I love the
Yeah,
idea of
that's
putting
hard.
it back in the hands of the creator. And I think publishing, I'll be honest, I love inclusivity. I love the idea of giving that power to the creator. And the fact that for the longest time, the mentality is we're only going to accept less than 1% of books. We're not going to give the author all of like the money they deserve from time to time. There's a lack of promotion. I still have a lot of love for the publishing industry.
There is a lot of lack. A lot of the marketing expectation, and that's why you need a platform. That's why you need people that follow you and interact like what we're doing over here. So yeah, it's not easy.
It's not. And you know what I will say in that note, marketing is hard. Like people who are good at marketing, like I know there's some like ick around the idea of marketing and people don't like it, but people who are good at marketing, like that is a level of intelligence, creativity, and passion that I am working really hard to figure out and have so much respect for, because it's not easy. And like, I think I saw the soda there for a second and made me think of like Coca-Cola and stuff and how they have all of these like spot on beautiful ads. And I like have to like not to praise Coca-Cola in an ad sense, but like people who can do that, like that level of creativity and that level of like, especially
It's a
when
gift, isn't it?
oh yeah,
It's a gift. Oh my God.
especially
Yeah.
when it doesn't feel skeevy or like manipulative, and that can be a really hard line to walk.
Yeah. I assume it always is, because you're selling your mark. So as a marketing person or a marketing program or rollout, you are not only educating whoever's gathering the features and benefits of your product, but they're also walking that fine line of being looked at as subliminally successful or way too obviously gross. Right.
That, yeah, absolutely. And then like especially when you're marketing to like the mental health community or like the
Oh
neurodiverse
yeah.
community or other communities like that, it becomes so much harder. And I've run ads on social media, but like the other aspect of it is like acknowledging there's so many people who have just been hurt by marketing ads.
Really? Wait, you mean like being what's the term? Being the new term, being hurt by marketing ads and being kicked out or whatever. How do people get hurt by the marketing programs that you're referring to?
So I would think the easiest way is to take advantage of a community. I myself,
Ah,
I have known a lot of people who have had like something gratuitously marketed that takes advantage of them financially, or and I don't want to pinpoint any company in particular because no one deserves that. But there are a lot of different,
right.
profitable markets. There's a lot of different income areas where
Oh yeah.
a lot of people pour a lot of money into a product and have next to no benefit in their life.
Yeah, that's that is the common theme.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I totally get what you're saying. How do you define shared storytelling? So there's people giving back to the community, those two those two communities, and anybody wrapped up in mental health, obviously. But um, what is the impact? And no, not the impact. What does it look like with your shared storytelling in working with these individual instances?
So I think the big one, every time I try to run a program or do a talk or incorporate things, the biggest use is actually taking in a element of community and audience feedback. So one of the things I do on a regular basis is Dungeons and Dragons, and I will tell a story, but people will be able to provide elements of that story through their own ideas. The other thing that's so impactful about shared storytelling is instead of just having one person talk at someone, it's a collaborative and introspective skill building exercise when done
I call
properly.
it a watch party. I call it a watch party. That's what we're doing right now, you know? Go ahead.
And then the other thing in that is you can also implement like real life skills, like problem solving opportunities, math skills, insight, like insight challenges. And it also really helps people to share their voice. And I mean, one of the key ways people utilize, either subconsciously or otherwise, to get people not to provide feedback or not to be heard is just cutting out their opportunities to talk and ask questions. And I've heard similar things. I've heard really kind instances of, oh, we can't take feedback right now. And then I've heard people say, we just don't want your input, right? Like, we don't have time for
That's
this.
brutal.
Yeah.
That's irresponsible approaching sick, you know, in that.
And then the last thing I will say is when we give these communities, whether or not they're neurodiverse, whether or not they have lived experience in mental health, the more we create opportunities for people to be truly heard, the more they're going to be confident in their ability to share their voice and actually go out in their community and lead to positive change.
And that's what it all boils down to. I mean, if to know yourself, which is everybody's mission in life, most productive mission in life, to know thyself is something most of us haven't been developing for maybe generations to a point. And the beauty of people that are experienced from that, get those experiences, and then go out and gain through a pushback the confidence to be the next voice for the things that they're doing. I mean, that's what we owe the world. That's what society and our society owes the world, right?
I completely agree. And I will say, one of the things, I know there's a lot of anger right now in the world as well for like Gen Z or Gen Alpha kiddos out there.
Gen Alpha, that's a group? Gen Alpha is a group?
I think it's right after, I think they might be the millennial the kids of the millennials. I can't remember.
That transition area, that band area. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No worries. I have so much respect for them. And I know like a lot of people are arguing, oh, people are being selfish. But I see a lot in like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, this strong sense of self-advocacy and a strong sense of identity, even at a young age. And I'm going to be clear, no one's perfect at like 12 or 15 or 18 years. And no one's their best self at that age. We're all exploring, we're all learning. And that's part of the reason I'm a big youth advocate, is because people, like, there's such a mentality towards younger generations of shut them down and make them conform. And I don't like that.
I agree. No good. What challenges when you're creating the content for, so this is kind of, you're leading into, I can see the question of what challenges do you face when creating that content for neurodiverse audiences. You probably would have, because of your experience and expertise, have probably less challenges, but there's still bound, I would assume, challenges in messaging like you're talking about right now, right?
Yeah, challenges in messaging. I will say, one of the things that I do find, kind of off my earlier point, is a lot of young kiddos, but and I use kiddos just because I find so many people go to an absolutely negative space when you say kids. Like, the transition that I see is just, oh, kids are disruptive or problematic or all of this stuff. That's one of them. Kids are just intrinsically taught not to ask questions in a lot of ways, or not to express themselves. But also,
100%, so true.
Yeah, and
so true.
I see this in adults a lot too. people grow up being silenced, being told not to ask questions. And especially within the neurodiverse community, there is such a strong sense of shame. So many people, I will talk to people and they'll ask a question and then be like, no, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't ask that question. Or I'm being disruptive. This is hard. But the other thing that in that is a challenge is the idea that I'm trying to undo what could be generational trauma. I'm trying to undo what is societally accepted on how to treat people who are different. And in that as well, another challenge that I'll throw out there is it's also working with people who are taught so often that they are the problem or that they don't know how to access what they want. Like, so there's you're the problem, you should know what you need to do in life. And then there's just the resource issue. So many people and so many communities don't know how to get help, don't know how to ask for it. And they're also like in that you're the problem issue, they are taught not to seek it. Like they're taught, oh, you need to be productive on your own. And you need to, if you don't, you're judged. You're being the problem.
That is a generational definitely issue, right? I mean, we all know about that. Being afraid to ask for instance, we're both males here, so nothing against the females, but there's way more mental health issues in males, but I think by a large amount than females. But just using that example that you just said, we're just now, I mean, you go back to world wars and you go back to even let's say about there and moving forward, you know, the mental health impact of what those generations at that point in time during war experienced was never really known or thought about, or you know. But then it started, I think, around coming out of Vietnam. I think it was because even too, but then again, maybe because there wasn't as much information, but. That we're just now scratching the surface to address and understand. I had an autistic gentleman on, Chris, a week or whatever ago, and your brain is wired differently. You're not doing anything wrong. You just are working harder at having the human experience than everybody else, right?
Absolutely. And I'm not going to get deeply political, but I think we can see, you know, generationally, like Vietnam, what our attitude was towards veterans and still is very flawed. And it definitely has impacted.
It was sickening after Vietnam. My dad did 3 tours. And so I kind of went through nothing direct, but just that feeling of, you know, of disdain, which happens for different reasons in everyone. But imagine the difference, not that we're perfect, but the difference we're addressing and appreciating first responders, service, military, so forth, is so much more adult than we did before, because it was disgusting. You know, the media focused on things that fired everybody up, and so when they came back, they were being spit at. They were being called, you know, monsters and murderers. I mean, these guys just went through a day in and day out, and one of being on the edge of death, and you know it. That was cruel. What we did as a society, you know.
Absolutely.
So, what in creating play here? I didn't read this right. What role does creativity play in healing and the advocacy for you?
So I would say creativity. So this is another thing that I think could be a whole like 2-3 hour conversation.
Absolutely.
So I think creativity is crucial. not just to advocacy or storytelling or anything. It's crucial to humanity. We as human beings, in one way or
Good
another,
point.
crave creativity, and we crave it especially when we're kids. And like
Mm.
the way in which I highly encourage anyone who challenges this, go watch a kiddo have complete freedom to play, express
If
themselves,
it,
be creative, and see the smile on their face. Because the reason I
the
say that,
glow, the
yeah,
energy, the smile,
absolutely.
100%.
And so that's so crucial because it helps us connect to our humanity, but it also helps us to connect how we can process our worry, our stress, our pain. And I'm also a big advocate. We need to re emphasize the emphasis of creativity for human beings. Storytelling connects
Absolutely.
to literally every part of life, and creativity is a cleansing, beautiful expression. But I think we also need to move past the tortured artist kind of worship that we have as a society. So
I get
often
it.
so many people have ruined their lives because they want to be that tortured artist versus the thriving artist. And so often people just derail and degrade people who are happy in their art and are being productive. And I think I don't think we really do need to move past that.
Yeah, I mean, you're just saying being creative. One, you, if you develop creativity, and let's say for me, I own a machinery building and sales company, and so you're always working down that line. And like a month ago, well, I started last year doing this, which is a much more creative, and it's amazing the alertness, no alertness that creates, because you're doing those things, you're building wet wire, connections.
Absolutely. It's also just a powerful teaching tool. Many
Because
people,
you
not
absorb it,
everyone.
right? Because you
Mhm.
absorb it better. Yeah, okay, yeah, gotcha, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, not everyone is destined to be a creative or work in that field, but I think like part of that is America's attitude towards creativity. And I think part of that is, again, generational. People didn't view art as viable for the longest time. Now that attitude's being applied to like social media and influencers and things. And I really just wish we could kind of normalize like an empathy towards people who have alternative careers, or not alternative, just careers that people don't view as the norm.
Yeah, we're as a society, each area of the society has this um, unabashable uh, regard of their themselves as being more important than the whole, and that you shouldn't have to experience something that's uncomfortable from somebody else. Well, what you're driving at right now, I mean, what we have to be is better people all the way around, and go to watch parties. Go to watch parties all the time, because people, like you said, man, it's information you're driving together, and being accessible of,
Mhm.
so that the world, it kind of. Speaking of commercials, I don't I don't know that you ever saw this, but do you remember the Coke commercial back in, I think, the 80s? Uh, if the world, it was a bunch of people on a hill talking about nothing about Coke. Some of them were kind of drinking it, but was totally about the vibe of the American people, and it was one of the most successful uh, 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 programs, advertising of really all time, because what it did is it touched a great percentage of, and you know what, people became more conscious of that, and more involved in their neighborhood and their society. But like you said, leading up to and finally being blown out by COVID is we're not that anymore. Not right now. We're building to it, I think.
I think we're building to it, but I think it's also we're in this really fascinating point, I think, of empathy, where there's kind of a contrast. There is empathy towards the community and empathy towards a lot of things that are changing, but there's also empathy towards the self and learning to accept who and what we want to be and defending ourselves as having the right to honor ourselves. But I think there's also a really profound kind of hostility that's happening towards that mindset. I think part of it is generational. There is that, like, there are a lot of people I know who older that I dearly love who have a problem towards the like, I'm going to take care of myself, I'm going to honor myself kind of mindset. But at the same time, I think it's also a selfishness when people have that frustration, because we have generations going, no, I don't want to work for someone who's going to mistreat me for 40 years, and I don't want to drop on the floor dead someday. Then we have people saying, I want to be advocate, I want to pursue my dreams. And I think that's such a contrast to, like, you have one job, it is what you do. I don't care if I'm here and I'm miserable, I'm taking care of my family. Where now it's, I want to take care of my family, but I also want to be a little happier in what I do. And absolutely. I think part of that is
the American dream is what you're describing right now. You want to have the American dream, right? That's what you're describing at this moment. Happier, fulfilled, important, the being a backbone of a movement. You're fulfilled. You're happier, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So as we go through these, I'm starting to catch up, but now 6 or 7 more questions jumped in. So I'm gonna hop around here with you a little bit, if you don't mind. Which event? I really like this one because it's always one. There is always one, and 2, it's always inspiring, that story. And Mr. Bradley, I really appreciate this question. Which event or speaking engagement has been the most meaningful for you?
So I'm going to try to be quick because we have so many questions. I'm going to say, so I started doing D&D at a local space called the Autism Community Store. Partly, this is so meaningful, partly because this is one of the first spaces that actually took a chance on me to run an ongoing event. And so this is particularly meaningful because it is bringing together a bunch of youth with autism, with all these different stressors. And this has been going on for, I think, almost 4 years now. But I have met so many youth, so many kiddos, so many people who are looking for connection. They're looking to connect with their community, build skills, have a space. And I've got thousands of stories I could tell on this, but there was one day about a year and a half ago, there was a new family that came over. It was a mom and her son, and she was nervous. I could tell she was holding her hands. She was watching. He sat down. He started getting into the game, and I noticed the mom went over to one of the couches, laid down, and actually like took a short nap. And that may not seem like a big deal to a lot of people.
No, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
To be able to be calm, to be able to be not surrounded and gripped by that, which you took away for that mom. Moms and dads live that their kids' lives all the time.
Yeah, and it's one of my all-time favorites. I'm gonna stop there just because we have so many questions. I can easily ramble.
Absolutely. So how do you balance professional storytelling with the emotional side of it, with personal emotional boundaries? How do you balance that? Good question. Hey, Adam, thanks, man. Adam Wayne.
It's a great question, and not one I hear a whole lot. So definitely thank you for asking. So the big thing for me is what I like to call intentional storytelling. when I was real early on in, I attended a training, and one of the things they highlighted was make sure not to share more than you're comfortable with. And another great point was don't share other people's stories. And that may seem like a simple kind of thing at first, but the heart of it was don't exhaust yourself. Like if you're going to tell your story on a regular basis, make sure you're not like making yourself sob. I know a lot of people are like, oh, crying speaker, that's so powerful. But in that, there is this real power in drawing boundaries on what you tell. And then when you don't share other people's stories, like I gave a real quick glimpse of what I've seen, but I didn't give names. I didn't highlight the trauma. I didn't highlight who they were, what they were doing, why they showed up. And so there's this really powerful sense of when we can be intentional in what we're saying, and when we can respond within ourselves, knowing what we're comfortable sharing. That's a great way to do boundaries. And then the other thing, and this is something I'm working really hard at, I am often terrible at, but I've been working really hard the last year to have boundaries between my work and my rest time. And I've been trying really hard to sit and not work all day. That's been really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one. That's not an uncommon, actually, I'll put it the other way around. That's a very common feeling or challenge to separate, to put the boundary, or I used an example the other day. Producer Barbie put up bumpers for me so I could roll down and not get in the gutter. So very similar in that. Gigla, I'm not even going to try that. And Tony Giza, sounds Italian. I apologize. I butcher names. I'm just a old age, middle class American dude trying to get a story out. That's my excuse. And so curious, how do you adapt storytelling to be, that is a good question, to be sensory friendly. So the storytelling helps that. How does that do that?
So the first thing
what does it look like?
Yeah, and I'll go over a quick list, just to try to help. So one, I try to set up spaces where there's not large glaring light or sunlight. I work to make sure
here.
You might notice, but I work really hard to have like a calm, even tone as I talk, which is huge. A lot of the time, especially as speakers, we're told be energetic, be this and this and this. A lot of those things are actually incredibly contradictory to sensory friendly work and can be overwhelming for people. I also work to have small community spaces where people can be valued and can be heard. And I try really hard, like I've done big events before, but when I'm providing a community event, I try to have a cap of people. On top of that, I try to be very calm and kind to people when they show up, honoring their emotional stressors. And then as I'm telling the stories, and this is a huge one, I keep the conversation on what people are willing to hear in the story within their comfort zone. I know a lot of people don't like the word comfort zone nowadays, but what I mean by that is I don't talk about triggering or hurtful or traumatic experiences. I have conversations with people when I can about what they like, what they don't like. I also keep conversation going fluid so that people have questions, they can ask them. If they need to step up and move away, I have a sensory spot for them, a little place where they can move or hide if they need to. And on top of that, another crucial component is I observe my audience. If someone says they're fine with something and then they're clearly not, I stop, I adjust, even if they tell me they're fine. I try to change the pathway. And this is really hard. Doing sensory friendly work, it can look easy, but it's hard, emotionally draining work. And so I also have to step back and rest myself, because if I show up to an event exhausted, stressed, and anxious, that's not going to work. It's going to immediately fail. So those are some great ones.
Great last comment there. That leads right into the next question here. So I think we're in the same vibe here. Everybody's kind of like, okay, what about this? Well, what about this? You're a brilliant speaker, and you're a brilliant speaker. How do you prepare for these big events? You talk about the events you go to quite periodically.
Sorry. So I prepare for them. A big one is that downtime. If I'm going to a larger event or a group of people, I have to have rest time. And when I say that, I'm not talking about going out with friends. I am very much an introvert. So I honor that introvert. I will sit down, watch TV, do things. I also lead classes a lot. Sometimes they're big. And so my downtime is crucial. The other thing that I try to do is keep communication with the event space going on a regular basis. I myself am one of those people that when people say, "Do you have a question for me?" that's when all the questions leave my mind, even if they're prepared. So I try to ask if I can ask questions as I go. On top of that, I work really hard to honor my anxiety. So I've brought things before, like I've had earplugs if it's going to be really loud. If I feel like I need to take a break outside, I do that. But if I'm at home, I am also a preparer. I am someone where if I'm not 15 minutes early to something, I feel like I'm 30 minutes late. So I prep everything I need to have hours before, if not the day before. I make sure my slides are prepared. And then I also make sure that I go into those events with a very positive mindset. I once heard a video and they had this great line of, instead of saying, "Why do I have to do this?" ask yourself, what can I learn from this and what can I get out from it? Or what will I learn from this? And that mindset has been vital.
So a mindset of being curious versus being judgmental, of being curious. One of my favorite lines. Forgot the poet now. Dang, I just talked about it yesterday. Anyway, that poem is wrapped around that phrase: be curious, not judgmental. That is huge. My God, great show. So much heart in this. Appreciate that, Danny. Thanks so much, buddy. In what ways can business benefit from? Okay, we were talking about this really earlier on. Benefit from embracing shared story. Well, we were talking about making accommodations. So sorry, spoke a little. Embracing shared storytelling within the company culture.
So the first thing I'm going to say is, if you're truly embracing it, I'm going to be completely blunt with you. It is going to take time. So many people in workplace cultures or community cultures have been abused, have been mistreated, lots of horrible things. I'm not going to go any further than that because I don't want to trigger anyone. But when you start embracing that, the best thing is you have people sharing their ideas comfortably, with confidence and with trust. That's huge. Not many organizations have that. The other thing in that is you start to get higher quality ideas. Instead of asking the leaders of the organization to come up with everything, and we've seen how bad that can be. Like we've seen that throughout our culture. It's not always great.
No, it's not.
We get better quality ideas. We get people who have the opportunity to move up. But also, especially, and I really want to emphasize this, when you start applying shared storytelling with your audience, the people that you serve and you work, you get a higher value of trust from people. They will view you with more respect, dignity, and admiration. And especially when you start applying those ideas and utilizing them in a compassionate manner by giving credit as well to the people who asked for them, you will have a long understanding of how your community functions and how you can better serve them. And I'm not going to understate this. Knowing how to actually serve your community through your work is the foundation to success, in my opinion, at least one of them.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. What about the coupled in there? Let's wrap it around as far as what do you think the future? And technically this is normally you would say, well, it's going to continue on in the numbers and people will be aware and that'll grow. But now with AI and the automation and what's coming at a super speed, that'll have maybe effect. But what do you think the future of storytelling and advocacy?
So the first one, I will touch on AI. So I mean, right now, the unfortunate thing of AI, and I'll make this quick because it's not the heart of the question. The unfortunate thing is we are in a real corporate greed kind of stage of AI. And this, I've been around long enough. I saw a lot of this happen with computers, with a lot of different technology, even just growing up in the 1990s. And so I know there are people who are going to be like, oh, AI is going to replace humans and things. I know enough about AI. That's not going to happen. Like AI is nowhere near that. We're not going to get Skynet. People may want you to believe that or believe it's going to replace people in healthcare. It's not. It's never going to do it. Robots will not replace nurses. Doctors are definitely not going to be replaced by it. And nurses, oh my gosh, what nurses do every day, hospitals would not run without them.
Yes.
But in advocacy work, I think what's going to happen, and I'm going to be honest and start kind of at a low point. We're going to see a lot of hardship, I really believe, in advocacy work, in not just in the next few years, but for a while. I always say society is bound to move backwards. Like the work is not always going to be linear.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. It's also not going to always be progressive. But I think in this work, especially right now, and I also had this great presenter at a training who said, and I'm not going to name names for the sake of this, just because I don't want to anger anyone, but with who we have in power, this was several years ago, this is an opportunity for us to do the work. And this is true. Like anytime there's progression in advocacy, there's also going to be movement backwards. But in hardship, there's always advocacy work to be done. There's always the fight that needs to happen. And I think AI, technology, all of it is going to be incorporated. Because the last thing I'll say really quickly here, I want to see the world where AI is used for people who are nonverbal. And I don't like the word nonverbal. It's just the easiest word right now. I want to see the world where people who may not have a hand can write their story and tell their story. I want to see the world where people who cannot walk can have digital aids, who can help them access their community better. That's what I want to see. And that is honestly where I think it will eventually go.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. I mean, I agree with your opening summation on that, which is I don't see how AI is going to replace humans. What it's going to do is enhance the human experience. Mm-hmm. But the key is we got to have politicians in that are back to the point of representing their area for the things we hire them to do, to go no matter what it is. That's what we do, right? An election, we hired you, we believed your story. This is and now more than ever, this is a critical time. So as long as the future isn't, like you said, run by corporate greed and corruption and political, whatever, short of that, I see nothing but a utopia. Maybe even in my lifetime, but I see a utopia. I use the tools all the time. So, my friend, this has been an awesome. No, there's a couple more. You guys, we're trying to have a private conversation here, and you guys keep interrupting. Dang, man, what's up with you? So, Ali, seriously, I appreciate this comment. Loving the energy and wisdom. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, man. Thomas, you're rocking it. Keep it going. So, Jim Carey says this message needs to be heard by more people. What a great lead up to a closing statement and a wave goodbye to all your obviously new fans.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely give that closing statement. I do want to say really quickly, when I heard Jim Carrey, I was like, oh my gosh, is it the actor for a second there?
Kind of
Um,
looks like him a little bit too, huh? Hey, Jim,
uh,
if it's you, admit it. Come on, let us know. Come on aboard.
I do want to
Funny
say,
guy.
like, I think especially in that idea of utopia, I so this is my frustration with a lot of things right now. I know like people are saying, you know, we're on such a dystopia. We got so much going wrong. My mindset towards a lot of the frustration and the anger in the world is, yeah, we're humans. We're gonna fail. We're gonna do things wrong. We're gonna be angry. We're gonna have these problems. And I actually believe we were always headed to like some element of darkness. I don't think we were ever gonna end up in a utopia by this point in human society. But I think that's kind of the point. Like we as human beings, we will fail, we will struggle, we will have those hard times. We will not serve everyone all the time. But one of the best things about humanity is we can always try to be better. We can always work harder to be better. And we as human beings have this profound ability to change and to do good in this world. And I think one of the beautiful things about being in a point of darkness is to be that person who helps carry a candlelight in the darkness. Um,
Oh, that,
I I love the idea of just one light being brought together to help inspire. And I think that needs to happen. And we need those people, even if it goes out for a second, we can always ignite that hope again.
yeah, that is what a beautiful. Now we're you and I are kind of stuck in a situation here. That was probably one of the best. Hey guys, man, thank you for having me here. Here's my final statement because it wraps everything together beautifully. So we're going to flip this around a little bit. That was your closing statement, and then if you read that or have we missed anything you wanted to cover? By the way.
No, I think this has been great.
Oh, good. It's important. Like you said, having fun, enjoying learning something creates the retention at a much higher percentage than just, you get bored. So, how do you approach storytelling differently when working with mental health themes? And that's kind of what you work with, isn't it? Tell me I'm right.
It is.
So, Chris, thank you. Chris Hanna, thank you. Oh God, another one.
I
You
will
guys
throw
knock
this
it off.
in. I will throw this in. I will also say people are more than welcome to email me and ask me questions as well.
Oh, hold on a second. Hold on a second. I should have mentioned this too. I always have, because you're the expert. I'm just the guy chapping in the background. The your say it now, but your contact information, when I throw you back into the green room, put it in the private chat because you can only put it there. I don't know why, but I'll copy and paste it over into the comments. Okay.
Absolutely. So you can always find me on LinkedIn at RNH Creative Advocacy and Storytelling on LinkedIn. My email, and I always
by the way, this is streaming to LinkedIn too, by the way.
Awesome.
Both YouTube and LinkedIn, because man, I did it a couple times ago. The people in there are thirsty for what you're talking about, big time.
You can also email me at ndttrpg@gmail. I love that Gmail account, but my goodness, dude, like 90% of those letters sound exactly the same, and it makes it so hard to say it out loud for people. You can also put my website, RH Creative Advocacy and Storytelling.net. Again, did not know as much about website design and URL creation as I did. That's a long website name. And I'll put a couple others in there. So as stated, I love questions. It may take me a little bit of time to get to them because there's a lot that I do. But I love questions. I want to help people, and I don't just say that. And then also, I just wanted to give a shout out to the wonderful people who have said nice things and asked truly
Yeah.
great questions.
I agree. Like John here, not the question part, but thank you, Thomas. Such powerful insights. Thank you, John. So, how quickly can you put all that data that we just talked about in the private chat? Because I'm going to kick your butt back into the green room and kind of go through the closing of everything and kind of wrap up. And then before the show ends, if I can have time to copy and paste it over there, makes it a lot better so that I can direct anybody who comes to this show to ask a question of something that wasn't answered now. It's obvious we're going to push straight forward to you. So, my friend, what a great show. That was fun. I knew this was going to be a fun show, but this was a very easy flowing, very fun and informative show. I really appreciate your efforts here today, Thomas. That was awesome. Or Tom, if I can call you that.
Thank you.
You have
Thomas, and then I don't.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say everything's in the chat for you.
Okay, it is. Oh, here, let me just do it now. I will send you off to the green room. Give me a thumbs up when you see it in the comments, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay.
Okay.
Thomas, you're the man. You're the man. You're the man.
Thank you.
Oh, I did it again. You heard. Thank you, guys. You heard it. I a little bit more of a pause than I can handle. Here, hold on. We're gonna shut off. We're gonna wind down here. This episode, and as you all know, the information as we close off, they're in each description of today's show. There's a associated link. In other words, similar subjects on a different day where we talked about these kind of things. So if you want to see the next one, which you'll hear from producer Barbie shortly, if you want to see the next another show just like it, boop, and let me do this. And comments, post a comment. That's me. And you dirty rat. I know this is taking too long. Here we go. All right. So posted it there in the comments section. So please get back with questions, because I know we had about not quite 400 people on today. Appreciate you last guys sticking around to hear me jibber jabber. But we really appreciate the support here. As you know, the broadcast, the live stream is growing dramatically and quickly. We love all that support, guys. Please subscribe and like the comments that people typically leave in the after the showing is completed. We'll have 2, 3, 4, 5 and more. I had one that within 3 days had another 1,000 clicks or whatever you call it. So with that, we always appreciate you guys being here, you guys being the backbone of America, and what we're doing, the mission we're on is very, very important. And you know what? Let me just say that. With this, I'm out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out.